Is there nothing in hell but people guilty of the only blasphemy against the Holy Spirit? This is a fundamental question. To know who goes to hell, we must first refer to the very text of the Lord. In Matthew, chapter 12, verse 31, "So I say to you, all sin, all blasphemy will be given to men. But blasphemy against the Spirit will not be forgiven, and whoever has spoken a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven. But whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit, it will not be given to him, neither in this world nor in the other." It remains to know what blasphemy is against the Holy Spirit. In fact, of all the sins that prevent a relationship with God, because sin is not necessarily guilty, since original sin, in babies, prevents a relationship with God, but does not come from them, it comes from the choice from Adam and Eve. Well, among all those who prevent a loving relationship of friendship with God, we can consider that there are three major groups. First, we can be far from God, not love Him heart to heart, in charity because we simply do not know Him. This will be called sin against the Word. In other words, against the Eternal Son, since God is Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Why against the Son, who is also called the Word? Because it is none other than the knowledge that God has of Himself. And so, if we do not know God, it is the famous sin against the Word. When this ignorance is not guilty at all. That it is, for example, as in the case of Nicodemus, because he does not know what is happening in God, this thing will not subsist in hell. And that's normal. Who can be accused of ignorance? Secondly, when the sin that this time can be guilty is committed by weakness, it means that we know what we do, but we do it anyway because we give in to the weakness of our sensitivity. We call that the sin against the Father. Why? Because in the Trinity, we attribute to the Father the origin of everything, therefore omnipotence. Not that the Son is not all-powerful too, but the Son proceeds from knowledge, so He is rather given knowledge. They are absolutely identical. As a result, all the sins of weakness that one commits, for example, I do not know, it can be an adultery that someone commits because he cannot resist the temptation of his flesh, it can be anger because someone does not control his anger, and it can be deadly sins, guilty this time, that kill the trust with someone else. Those will not survive in hell. They will be forgiven in one way or another. Finally, there is blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. It is said that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. It is their mutual love. He therefore proceeds from the Son, that means, the Father's full knowledge of Himself. And of the Father, it means the infinite power of God. Therefore, by analogy we attribute the Holy Spirit, we say that it is love, and we say that it proceeds from the Father and the Son. By analogy, in the man, a blasphemy against the Holy Spirit will be all sin, in serious matter obviously, perfectly lucid. So he proceeds from the knowledge that is attributed to the Son. And second, perfectly mastered, no weakness in itself. We know what we are doing. So he proceeds, somewhere, from the Father by analogy. Result, a man, who in grave matter, knowing perfectly what he knows, perfectly, according to all the consequences, including eternal damnation and what it is, including contempt of the gospel and what it is, he needs absolute knowledge. Secondly, a man who besides that, would be perfectly master of him. He is not moved by any fear, any temptation of weakness, a man who would maintain these two states, facing Christ at the hour of death, and who would freely choose to despise His gospel. This one is in a state of blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. It is this sin, according to all the forms that we will see in the other videos, which alone remains in hell. In other words, the people of hell are lucid people, masters of them, who want to stay in this place, rather than accept certain conditions of paradise.